Hi, my name is Panav Mhatre, and I'm the host of the Spot Robotics Podcast. Welcome. Today I'm joined with my guest, Mr. Zimri Hinshaw, the CEO of Rheom Materials. This was a super informational episode, and he brought some amazing views. So I hope you enjoy this podcast where you can gain an insight into technology in the modern world and gain a new perspective and advice on succeeding in these fields. If you enjoy the podcast, follow us on wherever you get your podcast. And if you'd like to support us even more, give us a review. Thank you and enjoy. Could you tell us a little bit more about, Rheom's, like what it does, and I guess what made you come up with the idea in the first place when you started off?
So, Rheom Materials, we create bio-based alternatives to petrochemical plastics and animal leather, and we use existing plastics infrastructure to do that. So we're using exact same equipment that plastics uses to create more sustainable materials. That's what we do. How we started was, so I'm a military kid, and I grew up in Japan. And part of that, I went to Japanese high school, and I used to hang out with these Japanese kids who used to ride motorcycles, and they wore these amazing biker jackets, really, really cool designs. And when I came back to the US, I was inspired by that, and I wanted to create leather jackets in that same style for an American audience. But I've been vegetarian for 10 plus years, and so creating something out of animal leather was out of the question, and creating something out of petrochemical plastic didn't really appeal to me. So I started looking for alternative materials, and I had been trying to start companies at the same time, so this was already something that I was kind of interested in. And I realized that there was a better opportunity to create the materials themselves than actually create jackets. And so after a few weeks of research with our Temple University's business librarian, we came to that conclusion and that this was a actually viable business, and we started up. So that's how we got started.
It's really cool to see that you're vegetarian. I'm also a vegetarian myself, so
Nice.
really, really cool. So one thing I want to begin, I know you're the CEO of the company, and I want to ask, how does your life look like being like the CEO of such a large company? And I guess in what ways has it positively impacted you? In what ways has it negatively impacted you? If you want to talk about
Sure. Yeah. Well, we're not too large. We're 7 people, 3 PhDs. We've raised around $3.5 million over 4 or 5 years, maybe 4 years. So, we're definitely a startup, and definitely growing fast and looking to raise more money. But that's kind of the size of the organization as of today. In terms of being a CEO, I think the pro is that you can have a huge impact on the world and on your organization. You have a lot of control. You have a lot of opportunity to create change and to build culture, company culture, to choose the mission behind what you're doing and to organize a team behind it. So I think there's that opportunity to make impact. There's an opportunity to change your life and the lives of the people you bring on board. That's a double-edged sword. I think the other side of that is that there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. We have millions of dollars of investors who have put their money and believe in what we're doing. We have team members who have dedicated their lives and put their dreams into what we're doing, and so that responsibility is not to be taken lightly, and definitely can be the pressure and responsibility can definitely feel intense at times. And so it's really important to take care of yourself and exercise and sleep 8 hours a night and make sure that you're doing the best you can do to maintain.
I want to basically see, I know as CEO, you're probably very busy, and also I see as a company you probably also have faced a lot of challenges as well. I guess, how do you balance the challenges and the things that happen in the company with your personal life, I guess?
I think it's a good question. We're getting deep, real. At the beginning, So I recently was invited to apply for Forbes 30 under 30, and they had a questionnaire, and they asked a similar question. Their questionnaire, they asked, what advice would you give to your younger self? So I'm 25 now. What advice would I have given to my 19-year-old or 20-year-old self who was just starting this company? And the advice that I would give them is there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, especially in startups, especially in the early days, the really early days. It's chaos. One day you're on top of the world, and the next day you've got nothing, and it's so intense. And I would say, stop attaching your identity to the company, to those ups and downs. Try to detach a little bit and have a steady state. Focus on your personal life. Focus on other things besides the company, because I think in the early days, and maybe this was necessary, to start and have that ambition and that energy and that drive, but I put my heart and soul into every day of this company, and so I really felt the highs and I really felt the lows. And I think over 5 years, I'm doing a better job of sort of separating myself a little bit more from the highs and the lows, and understanding that those are just the path that it takes, and not to feel the highs and not to feel the lows, and to stay a little bit more in the middle, and to kind of just steer the ship from a more even mindset.
Mm-hmm. I guess I know you brought some materials from your company. I guess, do you want to talk about those while we're on the topic?
Yeah, absolutely, sure. So as a company, currently we have 2 material products. The first is Shorai, which is here I'm showing. This is our leather alternative. Today it's about 93% bio-based content, and it has a cotton backing. And this is being used in automotive upholstery, in things like handbags. This is a handbag made out of Shorai right here, cute little small handbag, and those kind of fashion trim. Think of the back on your jeans, the patch. We're wearing headphones. Mine doesn't have it. Yours does have fake leather. That this could be used in those kinds of applications as well. Our second product is Zimri, which is 100% bio-based injection molded resin, which can be used for a variety of applications, including things like sunglasses. These are some sunglasses made of our materials, or combs and guitar picks and zippers and trim, and also the interiors of vehicles as well. So those are the 2 products that we're currently having. We're raising a Series A, now later this year and into next year, and we're looking to launch a biofiber division for fabrics and textiles as well. So these are all more sustainable materials made from a variety of ingredients. We feed there's a bacteria that's fed sugarcane that produces a bioplastic that we use. Some of all our materials come from ingredients like plant oils, seed oils, algae, minerals, and such. So these are all more sustainable ingredients.
I think you touched a little bit on the future. I guess, what do you see, without being, I guess, too specific, or if you want to be specific, I guess, what do you see the future of the company going? As where do you think the new markets are? What do you think, because this is a pretty big revolutionary idea, as you probably know, because of sustainability becoming a huge issue in our world today. I guess, where do you see it going?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, expanding our products, so getting into biofibers, getting into textiles, is going to be a big new push for us. As well, we're looking to start licensing in our technology. We're trying to build a technology company. We want to file a bunch of patents on a bunch of new sustainable materials, and keep being aggressive about that. And so, licensing out technology, licensing out the manufacturing, letting others around the world produce these materials is just going to increase our impact. So that's how we get to the $1 billion valuation that our investors are looking for, is producing materials all over the world and just really expanding our capabilities here in Houston in terms of our laboratory and what we can produce and the number of materials that we're producing. So, we're thinking even beyond, thinking about, not just hard plastics, but soft plastics and foams and, anywhere you see plastic today, which is everywhere, think about that being replaced by something more sustainable. So that's the company we want to create, and that's a little bit of how we're going to get there.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to know, I know your products require a bunch of technology, or like engineering technology, I guess, and science. I wanted to ask, since I know you're a business owner, how is technology in today's world, like AI and stuff like that, I guess, impacted you? I know you work really physical on things, but I guess, has it impacted you in any way? Any automation?
Just if there's AI, just my responding to emails and stuff.
Yeah.
In terms of materials development, I also have used AI to understand the science behind some of what we're doing, and of course we have PhD chemists and process engineers that have a huge background, but sometimes I need to interpret what they've sent me as a non-technical founder, although I've taken organic chemistry at Rice University recently to be able to have more meaningful conversations with our technical team. Sometimes I still need to translate some things into plain language or to understand a concept, and I'll use AI to do that. But yeah, we're definitely more in the physical space. Unfortunately, we can't fix climate change, and we can't build a better environment with just code.
Yeah.
You can't. You need physical atoms and chemistry to, we live in a physical world.
Yeah.
Not everything's digital.
In fact, I would say maybe the increase in AI, I'd be doing the reverse because of all the usage and stuff.
Well, that's exactly right. I was just talking to my mentor and one of our investors, Trevor Best, CEO of Syzygy Plasmonics here in Houston. I was talking to him yesterday, and he was like, I think as humanity, we're really going in the wrong direction. Yet people, a lot of the high-profile investors that were previously investing in climate technologies are now have kind of lost their patience and are now investing in AI. But it's really ironic because AI, where's that being, a lot of AI is being powered, here in Texas or in California. And what's powering it? Petrochemicals. They're burning fossil fuels to power this computational requirement for AI. So I think without continued investments in green energy and climate solutions, then our future in AI could look pretty dystopian. We'll be very extremely advanced digitally and very, our world will be polluted. We'll be breathing in smog and terrible air. And it's not the world I want to live in, for sure.
I guess one thing I know you just mentioned about how, have you seen the shift in, investors moving to more things related to AI? Has that happened to you, or is that just, I don't know, because I know most people are looking into the AI space. The AI space is the new kind of thing, I guess. Before it was I guess other things. Is that happened to you in anything where?
I definitely think that if everyone's startup pitch decks, their investor pitch decks didn't have the word AI in them before, they do now. Everyone's trying to find a way to put AI into their company, to put AI into their pitch deck to sound more innovative. But I think the core investors in climate technologies and in fashion technologies and climate technologies and decarbonization, those core funds are still here, and companies are finding funding and having success. So in some ways, I do think sometimes AI feels like a little bit of a distraction for a lot of these investors, and that they're maybe over-indexed in AI funds, and they should diversify a little bit more and be a little more holistic and not get too caught up in kind of trends, and think about the world that they want to see for their children as well. Have a big picture, long-term view. But I think technologies like ours are still getting funded.
Hmm. I want to ask you, I guess, what motivates you to keep doing what you're doing? Because I know it definitely must be challenging sometimes. And I guess, where do you want to see the world go, like, in the future with whatever, like, in general related to like sustainability?
Yeah, what motivates me every day? Um, our vision for the future, our vision for a better planet, a better environment, just an optimistic worldview and hope for the future. I think that definitely motivates me every day. Seeing our wonderful team working hard and believing in what we're doing, and seeing our laboratory and the facilities that we've built every day, that really inspires me, and my team inspires me, and that gives me the strength to kind of keep getting out of bed, keep
That's
coming
really
in,
cool.
keep trying. So, yeah. In terms of what was the second part of your question?
I guess, where do you see the future of the world going with the sustainability? I guess with what you're doing, I guess any other spaces that you see that, like, where do you see the world going in general with like what you're doing? I guess.
Oh, I definitely think that over time, the use of petrochemicals materials is going to curb. These solutions are going to rise and become commonplace. They already are. Bio-based ingredients, bio-based materials are already taking off and finding success. And so I think these will replace those materials. I think also I've been excited about sustainable. I've invested in other sustainable materials. I'm an investor in a company, BioFluff, doing plant-based fur. So I'm excited about a lot of different kinds of materials in our space. I really see a potential for our entire supply chain, our entire material world to get changed into things that are fit their context better and are more sustainable. And more mindful, so that's really exciting, and I think that's going to happen. I see other technologies, cleaner chemistry, CCG plasmonics doing cleaner chemistry, photocatalytic reactions, so making chemical reactions with light. I see more sustainable chemicals made from bacteria and synthetic biology. So there's a lot of really amazing technology that I think is the future. A lot of it's happening here in Houston, which I think people are excited about, and that's definitely why we're here. Is we felt like that was happening here as well. So there's a lot to be optimistic about. There's a lot of cool stuff that I think will transform the way that we use energy, the way that we do chemistry, the way that we interact with our world physically. And I think that's the world that I envision, kind of related to what we're doing.
Absolutely. I know you mentioned the biofluff. I wanted to ask you, because that was my next question, was could you explain a little bit to the people who don't know what it is, and I guess what made you want to invest in it, and like how did you get that first, like, knowing that was something you wanted to invest in?
Yeah, so biofluff, they have a product called Savion, which is their plant-based fur. So this is a sustainable bio-based replacement for what's currently usually petrochemical or even worse, animal fur. And then that's doing really, really well. I wanted to become an angel investor. So at first I realized that I could become an angel investor because of, I'm probably the poorest angel investor in the world because I don't make a lot of money. I don't really take a very high salary. I put everything back into the company so it can succeed. That's always been the priority. But my net worth is higher because of the value of what we've built together. And that has enabled me to angel invest because of SEC guidelines and regulations around what they consider to be an accredited investor or not. So I realized I could, and then it was, why? And I wanted to become an angel investor because I wanted to better understand the mindset of our investors. How does an investor think? How do they vet decisions? How do they maintain a relationship with the founder that they invest in? What is that like when things are going well, when things aren't going well? I felt like, and the third thing was, so that's kind of wanting to understand the investor mentality better so that I could raise more money and perform better for my investors. The other side of that was by advising and mentoring another startup that was in the same space, I would have a whole second set of problems to solve and to help solve. But this one was even better because I didn't have any, like I had very little skin in the, I have a little bit of skin in the game. I invested, the money that I put in and then shares that I was earning as an advisor. But it wasn't like my company, right? So it was a second problem set, a second set of things to figure out and to learn from without as much pressure as I usually have on a daily basis with my own company. So it felt like a great learning opportunity. And it's been all of that. And I've made multiple angel investments, not just in BioFluff, and some of them have done really well, and some of them have failed, not done as well. And I've learned a lot from both of those and lessons learned, and that's really what I wanted to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You should never invest in early stage startups expecting to make a bunch of money fast. Mm-hmm. It's very risky. It's extremely risky. You should only do it with money you're willing to lose.
That's good advice. I've heard about that a lot. Sometimes I know people just go in there investing in startups just without understanding what's really happening and seeing the things that are going to happen and like having a little bit of risk involved. I want to ask you, for me, who's a high school student, I want to ask you, what is your advice for creating a business overall in the future? For those who are in college right now, what would be your advice to, I guess, start a business, like an idea that they want to do, and to, I guess, get it to, I know you said you're still a startup, but get to a scale where you're able to raise a few $1 million at least to start, like, I guess, rapidly growing your company.
Absolutely. I would say if you're in college, then find your business librarian, find your accelerator programs. In Temple University, we had the Blackstone Launchpad powered by Techstars. It's a little entrepreneurial business program, and they'll just listen to your ideas. So you go and you pitch them, and they say, yeah, I don't know about this one, or yeah, that has merit, or let's work on this aspect of it. Let's look at the market opportunity. Let's learn, and they have usually programs. So if you're in college, go look for your kind of local business center, your local entrepreneurial center. If you're not in college, there's often in your neighborhood or in your jurisdiction, there's usually a government resource for small businesses and entrepreneurs. It really, in the early stages, it's about, ideas are cheap. Ideas are easy. Anyone can come up with an idea. Your idea is not special. It's worth nothing. So go talk to people about it. Go share it with the world. Don't worry about anyone stealing your idea. Go talk to people about it. See if it has merit. Ask people to poke holes in it to figure out what parts of it are good and what parts of it need to be revised, and to become viable. So meeting with those resources around you, revising your idea over and over and over. Look for accelerator programs. So once you have a pitch deck, once you have maybe a team, an idea, and you've created a prototype, maybe you found a customer for that prototype, and you've had your pitch deck reviewed by peers and your business resources, that's when you can think about applying for an accelerator program. So there's Y Combinator, there's SOSV's Indie Bio, there's SOSV's Hacks, there's XOSV's, there's tons of programs that you can pick and apply for them. Go for it, shoot your shot, and see if you can get an accelerator program that will definitely teach you how to be a better CEO, better founder, how to raise money, how to get in front of people, and it'll also give your company credibility and raise the profile. That would be my advice for anyone getting started.
Mm-hmm. If I am correct, is IndieBio one of those accelerator programs, if I'm correct?
It is.
Like, so, I was going to ask you, like, how did that impact you in your journey and your company right now to this day?
It was hugely impactful, and we did give up quite a percentage of the company to participate, but I think it was very, very worth it. We went, from being an idea in a dorm room to getting in front of some of the world's most premier investors and knowing how to pitch them. And it was a super intensive program that was 4 months in New York during the pandemic, and it was super fast-paced. We were expected to grow, X percent week on week, and to vet our ideas, vet our pitch decks, create prototypes, customers. It was super intense. I was working probably 100-hour weeks and weekends. I mean, like I had a cot in the corner of the laboratory. So I would do during the day. I would manage my team of interns at the time. Manage my team of interns during the day. In the afternoon, I would do some science or some pitch deck work, and then in the night, I would do business development, reach out, and then late night, I would do investor emails, and I would go to sleep at like 2 a.m. and then wake up at like 9:45 right before my first meeting in the morning. So maybe even earlier. It was super intense. One time, I didn't leave the laboratory for a week. Like I would just stayed on that floor of the building in New York for a week, and I didn't realize how cold it had become outside. When I first stepped out, I was freezing. So it was super intense, probably the most intense 4 months of my life, but it taught me everything I know about being a CEO, about being a founder, about raising capital, about building a team. I highly recommend a program like that. Mm-hmm. Just be prepared. It's trial by fire. Like, you're going to come out, you're going to get burned, and then come out a phoenix, from the ashes, kind of thing. It'll break you a few times.
That's really cool because, like, as you probably know, like, when you listen to like podcasts and stuff like that, you probably hear stories like that as well. Like some of the CEOs just working like really, really long hours, but to actually see that, and it's really cool to like. I know you probably experienced it. I want to ask, like, I know a business has multiple parts to it, as you said, like investors, the product itself, managing teams. How do you, I guess, because with such a role, like so many parts to it, how do you manage all of these things to be able, because I know management's a huge, like, crucial part in order to do it, because being weak on one thing can negatively impact you.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think as you grow, I think one of the things you have to realize is that you can't do everything. And that trying to do everything as you scale will quickly become very, very overwhelming. So, bringing on our chief operating officer, Robbie Padader, hugely changed the game for us and for me to be able to focus. I think that the larger you get, the further you are in your journey, the more specific, the more niche your skill set needs to be, the more niche that your role becomes. And so today, my role is very much interacting with pitching investors and creating strategy for the company to follow, and maintaining some of the high-level business relationships and contacts. But it's definitely a lot more niche. I used to do everything. I used to work in the laboratory, make the materials, test the materials, do the marketing, build the website, reach out to the business development clients, reach out to the investors, and 1,000 other things. And today, my role has become a lot more focused. Find those people who can do the things you can't better than you could. From the very beginning, go find people with complementary skill sets. Don't just partner with your classmate in your economics class or your engineering friend. Don't do that. Go find someone with a totally different background as you who can do something that you can't do and better than you. And as you grow, don't you got to release some control. You got to let go of some control of the company, of the direction. And that can be hard, but I think it's really important to make sure that it continues to grow and continues to be feasible.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk, I know you're talking about investors and pitching. I know that's one of the, if I'm correct, one of the hardest things, or like I guess one of the hard things about a business. How do you, because you're pitching in front of people and you're presenting things that like, and you're trying to get actual money. How do you, I guess, what is the best like advice for pitching, I guess, for a company? And how do you, I guess, make the connections to be able to just, to even get to those levels? I know you said you pitched it to some of the highest capital firms there.
Some of them.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't pitched Sequoia yet.
Mm-hmm.
If you know anyone at Sequoia, you let me know. I would say that confidence is all about preparedness. You've got to know your material. Create a pitch deck. Your pitch deck is probably not going to be very good the first time. It's probably going to be too wordy. It's probably going to be too complicated. Refine that message. Send it to your friends. Send it to business contacts. Keep refining that message. Keep paring it down. You might edit a pitch deck 100 times before you're ready to present it to someone. Make sure that you're showing large markets, great opportunities, a concrete plan on how you're going to get there. The team that's going to make it happen. There's some. It's really, you can just Google pitch deck fundamentals, business plan fundamentals, and get pretty close to the way there, and then practice it. Practice it in front of a mirror. Practice it with a friend. Practice it with a colleague. Keep practicing. Be prepared, and then even practice the questions that you might get. Think about what questions might investors ask me, and then practice answers to those, and keep doing that process. And then once you get on stage or in front of someone, you're going to feel confident. You're going to feel calm because you've done it so many times, because you know your material. Maybe it doesn't always go the way you wanted it to, but you've come prepared, and the outcome is going to be. You also can't control the outcome, so let go of that. Focus on the process. Focus on what you can control.
The question I want to ask you was, what is the biggest piece of advice you got when you were, I guess, created your company? I guess, what's the biggest piece of advice you got that really impacted you?
Biggest piece of advice related to what part of the business?
I think it could be anything, I guess. Like, if you want, I guess, it could be anything. I guess. If you want it to be like science, you could talk about science. If you want to talk about leadership.
All right, I got a story. So, SOSV is one of the world's largest investors, and they're our investor. SOSV stands for Sean O. Sullivan Ventures. Sean O. Sullivan, the founder of this fund, met with me. You can only really get maybe 10 minutes of Sean's time in your lifetime, if you're lucky. He's that kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I've been honored and to have maybe like 20 minutes of Sean's time over like 3-4 years, in hallways as he's passing, as he's moving, as his entourage is going from one meeting to the next, and showing him the product, and saying, hey Sean, this is our product. It's 100% bio based. It's and he says, okay, it doesn't look very good. It's not quite there. He says, why don't you, what's wrong with 50% bio-based? What's wrong with 75% bio-based? It's like, no, that's not my vision. I want 100%. I don't want to compromise. And Sean said, what's really important, Zimri, is that you make revenue. You make sales. Mm-hmm. You get into the market. Find product market fit. That is the most important thing a company can do. That's the only impact a company will ever have, is if it's out in the market producing things and selling product. That's your impact. And you need to be willing to compromise to get there. And your mission is a long-term, a long-term thing to strive towards. but you need to be practical and pragmatic, and you need to be ultra focused on your customer and what they want and closing that gap. And if you need to cut your materials with 20%, 15%, 5% petrochemicals to make that happen, it's still 80, 90% better than what's currently out there. He said it in a lot less words than I did. It was maybe like a sentence, and I've kind of extrapolated all that wisdom out of like the one sentence that he said, sort of like a Master Shifu kind of deal. But that was the gist.
It's good advice. I mean,
it's great advice.
And yeah, it's great advice. And no one really thinks about that, but I guess it does really matter. The last question I had to close it off, was I usually ask this to everyone, is when you through the journey you're gone, like as a person from like the very beginning of your life till right now, what is one thing you look back on? Like maybe, I guess, not regret, but I think maybe a little bit of regret, or something that you think you could have done a little bit better that could have maybe something you could have changed pretty much.
I don't think, maybe I would have brought on some more experienced help sooner, found mentors or found more experienced people to join the company sooner, to find partners that had that experience and maybe were older and had been through things and been through businesses before. Maybe I would have loved to have had that earlier in my journey. That's maybe one thing I would have changed. But all the highs, all the lows, they made me who I am. They brought us to where we are today, and for that I'm very grateful. And the amazing energy that I had in the early days of the company, working those 100 hours, and the sheer determination of a younger, more naive person. I think those mistakes had to be made, and I think that attitude had to be had. So, I might have changed a few things, but I have no regrets.
That's cool. I definitely agree. I think the mistakes that we make are pretty crucial to because if you didn't make those mistakes, something else might happen, if that. That's it for today's podcast. Again, if you enjoyed this episode, follow us on wherever you get your podcast, and if you'd like to support us even more, rate us. Until then, we'll be looking forward to seeing you in a future podcast very, very soon.